Ladies and gents, buckle up because we've got 2 hours of movie reviews. The top 20 movies of all time rated on iMDB. That's the Internet Movie Database if you've never heard it before. These movies are awesome. There's something for women, there's something for men here, there's something for all age groups. And you know, if you've never seen it, you might be surprised what actually made it into the top 20. I think it might pull a couple of surprises. So if you want to keep the suspense going, don't look up IMDb, whatever you do. But again, guys, you know, it's great fun, this is. And this took me quite a while. And we're going to be going through, by the way, the whole entire top 250. Now, this is a 2-hour collection of just the 20. So you imagine the amount of content we've got coming. But today, lads, we are going in with the big one, the top 20 of all time. Sit back and enjoy. Next up, the story that reminds us why the world can be so broken. This is one intense movie. And then there are stories like this, where the cracks in the human soul gape so wide, they threaten to swallow everything whole. This is not just a story of crime and justice. This is a reminder that there's darkness in all of us. Peter. Okay, in a nameless, rain-soaked city, you got two detectives. One seasoned and weary, right, on the way out. The other brash and idealistic, okay, he's gunning for the throne. Are thrown into a nightmare unlike anything they've faced before. I mean, straight into it. A series of murders, each getting more disturbing as the previous one. These aren't just ordinary killings. They're a message, a twisted... what would you call it? A twisted manifesto carved into flesh and blood. The killer calls it justice, but what kind of justice leaves so much horror in its wake? Now let's paint a bit of the old picture, the background here, lads. You got Detective Somerset, only a man days away from retirement, okay? Longs for an escape from the unrelenting chaos of the city. And as the movie goes on, you know, you can really see that he gets worn down by the whole thing. He's been here before, maybe not as stakes as high as this, but he's been through a lot. Then you've got the young partner, Brad Pitt, Detective Mills, fresh-faced, eager, believes he can make a difference in the war against human depravity. The world is the bleak cityscape where apathy and crime are everyday shadows. And hope barely flickers here. And, you know, when the first victim is discovered, tied into the sin of gluttony, the pieces of a nightmarish puzzle begin to fall into place. Now let's get into it. Each step of the investigation, lads, it brings them right closer to the truth, right? Every half a step. And deeper into the killer's labyrinth. Pride, greed, wrath, sloth, was it sloth? Sloth, envy. I mean... each sin brings with it another body, another twisted tableau that makes a mockery of human nature. And as the killer taunts them with his superior intellect, by the way, the guy's in a freaky way is a bit of a genius. In a weird way, like, you know, give me some rope on this one. His ability to manipulate, they begin to lose themselves in the madness. Somerset sees his worst fear realized. This city, the world is beyond saving. Mills sees red anger clouding his judgment as he grows desperate to catch this monster. And then the killer, John Doe, surrenders himself. Well, lads, he just walks into a police station, hands covered in blood, smiles. It's over. Or is it over? In this story, endings are not resolutions. The real game is yet to begin, even when he just he hands himself over. He leads them to a place, a devastating truth waits in a simple cardboard box. We won't give anything away. But what they find there is not just the culmination of the killer's plan. It's the destruction of innocence, the birth of rage, and the death of hope in all one moment. And as the sun sets over the fields, lads, Somerset looks out over the wasteland of human morality and whispers words that linger after the credits roll. And they even quote, was it Ernest Hemingway, since the world is a fine place and they want to believe that, right? I am not quoting him exactly here, the exact words, but it does really tie into the movie. And lads, you gotta see Seven for what it is. It is without doubt one of the greatest twists in movie history. You'll just go, what in God's name just happened here? I did not see that coming. And it's all the way up, leads all the way up to the end. Seven. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and somebody else, we won't name his name. Even though maybe you all know, but lads, this is why I love, like, a lot of movie reviewers. I wouldn't call myself a movie reviewer, but I'm really enjoy this. I love it. And a lot of them do the new movies come out. There's too many old classic movies that we've got to revisit or put on again to get a bit of nostalgic feeling back in our blood, right? Or if you haven't seen it, well, it's just a damn shame. And Seven is certainly one of these movies you've got to see. Talk to you later, lads. Picture this. Earth is dying, crops withering away, dust storms are choking the land like the Sahara Desert on a really bad sandstorm, and humanity is on the brink of extinction, lads. This is what's going on in the movie Interstellar. Now imagine being told that the only hope for our survival lies beyond the stars, a leap into the unknown where time, space, love bends in ways you can't even imagine. This is what happens in this movie, and let me tell you, if you haven't seen it, you're depriving yourself of one of the most profound, emotional, and awe-inspiring cinematic experiences of all time, and Hans Zimmer just slam dunk the score of this movie. Interstellar doesn't just dabble in conflict, lads. It thrives in it. The Earth is turning into a kind of a barren wasteland as we're speaking. Humanity never been closer to extinction, but the real kicker is the only way out is a wormhole near Saturn. Now listen, lads, you've probably heard me say this before. I'm not a sci-fi geek, right? I detest the stuff. But again, actually, you know what? This is one of the ones. And again, this is Christopher Nolan, right? Behind this. So this isn't really a sci-fi movie in many ways. And, it leads to a potential habitable planets light years away. Now you got Matthew McConaughey, who's just brilliant in this movie. He's an ex-pilot turned farmer. Who's tasked with leading this impossible mission. And I mean, it really is, lads. You're pretty much thinking it's a suicide mission. But here's the gut-wrenching part. To save the world, Cooper's got to leave his children behind. So, I mean, the stakes really are turned up for this guy. It's unreal. And knowing he may never see them again. And add to that kicking time bomb of space-time, every hour on a distant planet equals years back on Earth. So, like, believe me, wait until you see this and get your head around it, okay? Like, every second, as far as I remember, lads, every tick when they go to one certain planet, okay? It's like a second, and that's worth, I think, 7 years back home. It's crazy. So wait until you see it. Just get your head around that one. It's madness. Interstellar is the brainchild of Christopher Nolan. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend behind The Dark Knight. Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, Inception. I mean, you just know it's going to be good if he's behind this. It was out in 2014. Now, it combines cutting-edge science, which, by the way, it'll take you probably about 20 times to kind of figure out what at least half of the movie what they're on about, unless I'm just a complete dumbass, but yeah, maybe that's it too. But Nolan works closely with physical Kip Thorne to ensure the deception of black holes, wormholes, and time dilation were scientifically accurate, which is awesome, This guy doesn't mess around, man. This movie isn't just entertainment, it's a crash course in theoretical physics that leave your brain buzzing. Hans Zimmer's haunting, hypnotical musical score. It doesn't just complement the story, it amplifies it in such an unbelievable way, pulling you into the epic journey that is Interstellar. And then the journey through the wormhole begins, right, lads? And I mean, the real stakes go through the roof here. You got Cooper, his land on a planet near a black hole where time moves so slowly, lads. You know, that, like I said, 7 years on Earth. I'm thinking to myself, well, get your head around that. I'm honestly, you know, and then disaster strikes, a colossal tidal wave. I mean, wait until you see this on the screen. It's insane, right? Children, Cooper's children, Matthew McConaughey, are now grown. They're angry, they're heartbroken, believing he abandoned them. The emotional weight is crushing. And then he's got that added pressure of how do you actually save humanity when it means losing the very people you love? But the most mind-bending conflict here, lads, comes near the end when Cooper, he hurls himself into a black hole to ensure humanity's survival. And this guy just goes all in at the poker table. This isn't just some flashy CGI moment now, lads. This is the heart of Interstellar, let me tell you. And inside the black hole, Cooper finds himself in a weird fifth-dimensional space, like a tesseract where time is a physical dimension. I mean, the guy's a jockey, like. He can see every moment of his daughter's life, past, present, all at once. And here's the kicker. Cooper realizes that the mysterious ghost his daughter always talked about, it was someone else all along, and I won't say who, communicating through this tesseract using gravity. And then the sheer emotional and scientific complexity of this moment is enough to leave you reeling. Through an act of pure love and sacrifice, Cooper sends critical data back to Earth, allowing humanity to escape the dying planet that it was forming into. He's rescued, only to discover that his daughter is now an old woman. Again, another weird thing to get your head around. He saved humanity, but lived her entire life without him. I mean, kind of gets you going, man. I gotta admit. And it's a bittersweet reunion, reminding us that time and space, it may separate people, but love transcends as well. Oh, okay. Before I start taking out the Kleenex here. All right. Interstellar, it's not just a movie, it's a journey, lads. And it makes you question the boundaries of science, the resilience of humanity, the power of love. It's visually stunning, emotionally raw, intellectually stimulating. If you've ever looked up at the stars and wondered about our place in the universe, this movie's for you. And if you haven't seen it, go get 'em, Tiger, and go watch Interstellar, and prepare to have your mind and your heart blown into another dimension. There was a time when men never apologized for being an actual man. And today we're going to talk about this, lads. When they didn't shrink away from confrontation, they didn't cower at the idea of standing up for themselves. They sure as hell didn't let the system dictate every part of their last lives, man. This wasn't all that long ago. But today, man, it's been put in a straitjacket, man. Everything is just soft. Everyone's triggered. Everything's diluted. But if you want to remember what it means, like really means to have fire in your gut, to fight back when the world breaks into you, then you need to watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And it's not just a movie. It's a declaration of war against every institution, every oppressive force that wants to crush individuality. And the center of it all, Jack Nicholson as Randall Murphy, the last real man standing. Peter. Wow. Okay, now, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's not just about a guy faking insanity to get out of prison time. It's about a clash of titans. There's a real human conflict here. A man who refuses to be broken versus a system that exists purely to break him, right? And, on one side you've got Mac Murphy, wild, unapologetic, very rakish. He laughs, fights, plays by his own rules. On the other hand, man, you've got Nurse Ratched, cold, manipulative, the perfect symbol of an institution that wants to strip away anything rebellious, anything real. And here's the brutal truth. Today's world feels like a lot like Nurse Ratched's ward, man. There's an unspoken expectation that men should shut up, sit down, and accept their fate with all this hate speech garbage. We've swapped out of the lobotomies for social social shaming, for cancel culture, for a society that make men afraid to be men. But McMurphy, he refuses. He fights, lads. But in the old background of Cuckoo's Nest, lads, it came out in '75. That's right, we're going way back. And back then, people saw it as a critique of psychiatric institutions. But look deeper, it's about control. It's a world that wants people to conform so badly it will destroy anyone who resists. And McMurphy, he enters the ward and he sees exactly what's going on. These men, they aren't crazy. They're just convinced. They've been convinced they're powerless. Now, maybe you can argue with me on this one, but you know, if you really observe this movie, and that's what society does today, it convinces men that being strong, confident and defiant is somehow toxic, you know? And that standing up for yourself is wrong. That leadership, aggression, and ambition are things to be ashamed of. But McMurphy, he doesn't just see through it, he goddamn challenges it, man. Now, from the second he steps into that hospital, lads, he shakes things up. He brings energy, chaos, life. He teaches the other patients to fight back in their own way. He gets them to laugh again, to dream again, to want more in the prison they've been put in. And the fishing trip scene, absolutely classic. One of the greats of all time. I mean, these guys who were told that they were weak, that they were incapable, suddenly become men again under McMurphy's lead. They're out at sea, drinking beer, steering a boat. It's proof that the only thing stopping them from being free was the belief that they weren't. But here's the thing, the system, Nurt's ratchet system, it doesn't allow that. It never does. Now, McMurphy, he doesn't just get punished for standing up. He gets crushed for it. I mean, it's horrendous because that's what always happens to men who refuse to be controlled, right? Right? You think about this? And yet he wins anyway, lads. Sure, they lobotomize him. We won't be giving too much away here. They turn him into a shell of his former self, really. But that... well, we won't go into too much. That final scene when the chief, inspired by McMurphy to do something, that's the moment you realize you can't kill the idea. And McMurphy's his fight, it wasn't in vain. He lit that fire in those around him, lads. He gave them back their strength. And even when he loses, he still wins. And this is why One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is more important. This movie is more important than any movie that's been out there for the last couple of years. It's more important than ever because we need to get back to the raw animal. Forget about this alpha garbage these days they call it. Alpha is a load of crap compared to this. This is Nicholson. This is a real movie star. This is a pure Jack the Lad, lads. And, you know... because right now, we're all living in Nurse Ratchet's world. A world where strength is discouraged, rebellion is punished, and where they'll try to convince you that being yourself, being a man, is wrong. And McMurphy didn't just fight for himself. Maybe it sounds corny, but he fought for all of us, man. And if you want to remember what it means to be alive, to see what its real masculinity looks like, watch this movie, lads. Let it light a fire in you because the world needs more McMurphys and have a hell of a lot fewer Nurse Ratchets. Ever hear that old saying, as far back as I go, I always wanted to be a gangster? Well, that is one of the classic lines of all time in cinema. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Goodfellas. What a show. I mean, well, if you haven't seen it, oh man, I'm feeling a little sorry for you here because what have you been doing? Because it's cinema magic, my lads. It's the opening line to Goodfellas, Martin Scorsese's masterpiece. I mean, I honestly think this put Scorsese on the map. I think he was going to get there. He's so good anyway. He was going to break through. But this was his main one. You know, apart from Taxi Driver, you could argue with me on that one. All right. But, you know, a film so goddamn good. It doesn't just tell you its story. It grabs you by the collar, drags you into a world of wise guys, and makes you feel like you're one of the crew, man. And now I get it. Like, maybe you're one of those people who've never seen it. Maybe you think, another mob movie. Here we go again. Let me tell you why Goodfellas is the greatest film one of the greatest gangster movies of all time. Peter. Now, okay, I get it. You hear so much things about The Godfather, right? Maybe that's all you need to hear, you know? Maybe you're not a huge, unbelievable fan of mob movies and, you know, Godfather's enough for you. You know, I get it. You know, there's been so much hype around Godfather. There's been a lot of hype around Goodfellas too, you know? You know, maybe you do think they're all the same type of movies, you know? But let me tell you, The Godfather is a grand opera, an honor. It's a legacy and a family. But Goodfellas? Oh, lads, that's the street dirty version in your face, you know? I tell you, lads, it's not about kings, it's about soldiers, you know? And guys who aren't sitting in big leather chairs making speeches. They're out busting heads, running schemes, and living fast. And it's not about the mob. It is the mob. And this movie doesn't romanticize anything. You know, it doesn't slow down. It doesn't ask for permission. It moves like a bullet, like a fucking bullet train with a killer soundtrack and a razor sharp dialogue. And, you know, it makes you laugh. It makes you nervous, makes you kind of laugh again, and before you're hit with something so kind of weird, but it knocks the wind out of you. Now, who do we thank for this wild ride? The man with the plan, Martin Scorsese. Oh, lads, he has hit a home run with this show. Martin Scorsese directs. He doesn't just direct this movie; he orchestrates it. Every frame, every cut, every tracking shot, it's a symphony of chaos and beauty. And take that tracking shot, the Copa shot, for instance. One take, and, you know, one takes were very rare back when Goodfellas was shot, you know? And Henry Hill and Karen, they glide through the back entrance of the Copacabana, weaving through the kitchen, past the staff straight to the table placed for them, all done in just one beautiful, sweet take, man. And that scene alone was a masterclass. Scorsese, I think, should have got an Oscar for just that alone. But just one moment in a movie packed with them. And we've got narration so smooth, it feels like silk. Freeze frame that hit like exclamation points, jump cuts that mirror the paranoia of a life on the edge, and then there's the cast. I mean, here we go with the cast, lads. I mean, I almost have to get my breath, just as in like, what an all-star lineup here. Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. That's your holy trinity right there. Not to mention other amazing actors. Ray Liotta's Henry Hill gives a performance so electric, you can feel it humming under his skin. And he's our guide through. He's our navigator. He's our tour guide. And we believe him. Like, we get him. You know, he's a little bit of an outsider, right? As you'll see in this movie, he's not a pure Italian. Okay, he wasn't born in the Italian, I can't remember the word they say, but he doesn't go all the way back, right? His roots aren't traced back to the old Italy. So you can feel that about him. I mean, and De Niro, God. De Niro, ice cold. Every nod, every glance, it's calculated. He doesn't need to yell to be terrifying. He just needs to look at you, and that's the power. I honestly think this was De Niro's best mob performance of all time. It was so raw, dirty. Now, you could argue with me on that about The Godfather Part 2. He was awesome, and let's not forget, he won the Oscar. But it was a different type of take, wasn't it? He was mimicking Marlon Brando. You know, you could still see he was De Niro, but he had to sort of follow the path to being the younger Brando. So, you know, he didn't open up, I suppose. Maybe if you're getting what I'm saying here, lads, and if you're not, you know, give me a bit of rope on this one, all right? You know what I mean? And I think this was De Niro unleashed. Maybe that's exactly what I'm looking for here. De Niro just unleashed. And then we get to Mr. Joe Pesci. Holy good Lord. He won the Oscar for this, by the way, if you didn't know this. And sweet, lovable Joe Pesci. Except in this movie, he's a goddamn monster. And a 5'4" stick of dynamite that could blow up in your face at any moment. His Tommy is one of the most unforgettable characters in film history. And the funny house scene, oh man, that wasn't even in the script apparently. Did you know that? Pesci just did it. He went so deep into the role, even the actors didn't know if he was joking or if someone was about to get whacked. That's why he won the Oscar. That's why we're all talking about him. And then when you think everything's going great, kabang. Yes, not Joe Pesci blowing everything up quite yet, but everything just goes down the toilet. Henry starts dipping into the drugs, the deals get riskier, the stakes get higher, and the last act, I'm sure I won't give anything away, that's when Goodfellas goes from a great movie to an experience, lads. Henry's paranoia is our paranoia. The camera moves faster, the cuts get quicker, the music pounds, helicopters, are they real? Is it he imagining them? Is it the drugs? The whole movie starts spiraling out of control and we're right there with them. This isn't The Godfather. There's no poetic, no grand exit. There's just Henry broken and having to go a different route. All I'll say is I'll just leave it there. So what have we learned today, lads? The Godfather, the Goodfellas. It's a gangster classic. Oh yeah, it ticks every box. Scorsese, genius, ticks the box. Joe Pesci could even make a room full of mobsters nervous. Tick the box. But more than that, Goodfellas is almost the perfect movie. I mean, I honestly don't think, and you know, you really have to be not a skeptic, but you know, you have to be looking for flaws. Like, it's very tough to give a 10 out of 10, but this is bloody close, lads. And it doesn't wait a second. It never slows down. It's brutal. It's hilarious. It's exhilarating. It's the every reason every gangster movie after had to step up its game. Like, this was the benchmark, lads, for a lot of things, except for The Godfather. But, you know, in the raw sort of street action, this was the benchmark. So if you haven't seen it, fix it tonight, please, right now. And if you have, watch it again. Because as far as back I remember, there isn't so many things. There's not so much things as too many times. The Goodfellas. What a class. Okay, lads. When was the last time you watched a movie and it made you question your whole existence? Right? Like, really question it. I'm not talking about a romantic comedy where you think, should I have texted them back? I'm talking a full-on, am I plugged into a giant alien computer program that's like, I don't know, harvesting my body, right, for energy while I daydream about tacos or some crap? Because that's, my friends, is The Matrix in a nutshell. It's a midlife crisis, but with kung fu and sunglasses. Peter. Wow. Now, I think we've all mostly have heard of The Matrix, right? Now, maybe you haven't got to it, but for anyone who's been living under a rock since 1999, The Matrix is that movie that gives us two things. It's I mean, groundbreaking visuals. We haven't seen CGI that good. Like, Terminator 2 really just rose the bar back in the day, lads. But then The Matrix came along and just slam dunked it. I mean, it was unbelievable. The CGI was unreal. Directed by the Wachowski brothers. The masterpiece. It follows Neo, Keanu Reeves. And, you know, he's your kind of average computer hacker / office drone who gets dragged into a nightmare where reality is fake and robots are real, and Keanu Reeves is the chosen one. That's right. And basically, like, it's Alice in Wonderland meets a philosophy textbook. It's sprinkled with martial arts. Choreography so sharp, it could cut a bullet midair, which, by the way, it literally does. But you know, lads, here's the thing about The Matrix. It's not just a movie. It's a challenge. It is. It's a test of how much dread you can handle while eating popcorn. It is all. I mean, one moment you're nodding along like, yeah, I get it, all right. We're all trapped in a system, you know, this Matrix thing, you know. And then the next thing you're spiraling. Wait, what if my goldfish is watching me? What if my Wi-Fi router is in on this whole thing? You know, I mean, there's this stuff, you know, if you start to buy into this stuff, maybe watching The Matrix isn't your thing. It's a lot to process, you know, especially the way we're talking about AI and aliens these days, lads, and and let's not forget the pills. Oh Lord, I mean, people still quote this to this day, 20 plus years later. The infamous red pill versus the blue pill. Neo chooses the red, and it leads to knowledge and freedom. But we can take a moment to appreciate how brave this was. Like, if someone handed me a mysterious pill, I'd probably say, well, thanks, lad, but I'm alright with my tea, you know? And I gotta say, the action sequences in this movie, now, I don't know if you've seen some of my other movies, lads. I'm not a big action fan, alright? I'm more about the internal struggle with the actor, but, I have to say, this movie it does just slam dunk action sequences. It really does. The iconic slow motion effect that made every other action film go, why the hell did we not think of this before, lads? And there was such imagination behind a lot of it, lads, It wasn't just unbelievable CGI, pure imagination. You mix those two together, and oh boy, do you've got a party. Watching Neo dodge bullets isn't just cool, it's a cinematic flex. It really is. These boys are flexing big time, man. And it's like the Wachowskis are saying, oh, you thought explosions were impressive? Yeah, well, lads, watch this guy bend physics, because there's Trinity. Now, a lot of people think she's very sexy. She wouldn't be my cup of tea, but all right, hey, each to their own. Can we talk about Trinity? She does kick off the movie with that wall-running cop, punching helicopter, dodging stunts that scream, yeah, isn't this your typical sci-fi flick? Barely speak. Also, we acknowledge that she made latex, in fairness, look practical. Like, I'll give her that. Like, sure, I'll fight robot overlords in that catsuit. Yeah, why not? I'm Trinity. Now, at the heart of the movie, really, the real pulse of this movie, lads, is Neo's journey. It's from kind of like a real average, clueless office worker, right? To messiah of the digital apocalypse. I mean, just what an unbelievable step. Like, it's every hero's journey ever told, and I think we all like that, because we all want to believe that we can do something special in our lives, and including me, including everybody, which is, it's kind of the corny side of us, I guess. But with kung fu training programs, an unhealthy amount of philosophical monologues from Morpheus. Oh, and by the way, speaking of this guy, what a guy. He's like kind of like a really cool professor. I don't know, some people think he's a bit cringe, it's a bit too cool. I go on the side of that, I gotta say. But there is a very coolness to him, a lot of coolness to him too. Lawrence Fishburne, he is a brilliant actor, so if there's anybody going to pull it off, it's going to be this lad. And, like, always dropping cryptic wisdom bombs like, there is no spoon. And, and then you're sitting there like, what are you on about, man? And then, Neo gets it. He stops bullets with his mind. He takes on Agent Smith. And I mean, he's got one of the greatest, Mr. Anderson. I mean, I think we've all heard that at some stage in our life. Basically rewrites the rules of reality. And it's the cinematic equivalent of getting an A+ on the hardest test of your life. And then the final fight, when Neo literally jumps into Agent Smith and explodes him from the inside. Now, by the way, this isn't giving away much, all right? Because there's a lot to this movie, by the way. It's not just a climax, it's a mic drop. Now, why does The Matrix hold up after so many years, lads? It's been almost just over 25 years. Incredible. And why does it hold up? Because, lads, it's not just about the visuals, it's about the questions. Is it all real? How do we break from that system that traps us? And more importantly, why do robots look like squids? That's a bit of a weird one, alright, I gotta admit. The Matrix just doesn't entertain, it makes you think, And, okay, maybe it almost makes you want to buy a pair of tiny sunglasses that don't actually block sunlight. But, yeah, well, that's besides the point, anyway, lads. But, the cool thing about it is, it does make you question, right? Especially the way technology is going these days. I mean, even ChatGPT, if you know how to use ChatGPT well, it can blow your mind. And here's the real takeaway. Life can be full of red and blue pills. We can go one way or the other road. Choices that can define us. And like, while most of us not have to fight AI overlords or download kung fu into our brains, we can decide to question the world around us. And the next time someone offers you a mysterious pill in so many ways, maybe it's an opportunity to think outside the box. Channel our inner Neo, take a leap. Just maybe skip the leather pants you're really committed to, though. Because as the Matrix taught us, reality is what we make it. And who wouldn't want a reality where Keanu Reeves saves the day? I mean, come on, lads. It's Keanu. Ladies and gentlemen, The Empire Strikes Back. This is all about our Lord Sith, the Dark Lord, Lord Vader. My Lord, oh God. Because if you ever thought a man was just sexy, evil sexy, it's this. Because this just put him on the map. Yeah, he was amazing in New Hope episode 4, but then this is the sequel, right? Part 5. And they just amped it up, man, with Vader. This just showed Vader who he really is. And if you've got any interest in watching Star Wars, this will seal the deal with Vader. Peter. Wow. Now, the problem, dear audience, is that too many of you who haven't seen this movie, you haven't experienced a sheer masterpiece that is The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, it's like, okay, look, let's rewind a second. Like, I get it. It's an old movie, right? Okay, especially if you're in your 20s, 30s at this stage. You might have seen it, okay, because a bit behind your time. I get it. But lads, even when I was growing up, the old school movies were unbelievable here, and this is no exception. Now, you might be saying, is it just an old sci-fi movie? Isn't it just a bunch of lasers and a guy breathing weird? My friends, Empire Strikes Back isn't just a movie. It's the movie. It's cinema at its peak back in the day. I mean, this was viral before anything was labeled viral, honestly. And, it's Shakespeare with lightsabers. It's Greek tragedy with space battles. This is what it is. And therapy for anyone who's got daddy issues. Now, let's just rewind a few. Let's show you the background here now. Let's take it. So, in A New Hope, episode 4, the rebels destroy the Death Star. Blows up millions of stormtroopers, and, they weren't doing a very good job anyway, so they weren't missed, I'm sure. And embarrassed the baddest guys in the galaxy, Darth Vader, he certainly got a bit of a slapping. But you think Vader would just sit back, take a spad and let go, right? No. Vader doesn't forgive. Vader doesn't forget. So what does Vader do? Well, Vader goes full Psycho X mode on the rebels, lads. Empire starts and boom! Immediately. The good guys are getting their butts handed to them. The rebels are hiding in a frozen wasteland called Hoth. And Vader's like, oh, you thought you were safe? Oh, poor little fellas. And he sends in giant AT-AT walkers. Oh, sorry, now I can barely speak again. Huge stomping robot elephants of death. I mean, these guys were the coolest things ever. He's just making a statement here, That's typical Vader. Meanwhile, Skywalker goes on a self-improvement journey to become a Jedi, which means he spends the entire middle of the movie running around a swamp with a little green puppet who speaks in riddles. Now, and the puppet, Yoda, has the nerve to tell him he's impatient. My guy, he's been training for like a day. Chill out, man. And, here's where it gets spicy, lads. While Luke is off doing his CrossFit training with Yoda, Vader's out there personally wrecking people, right? You think your boss is scary? Imagine a boss who literally force chokes incompetent employees through a Zoom call. That's Vader. I mean, he's done messing around. This guy doesn't take any garbage. And Han Solo, frozen in carbonite, boom, unbelievable. Leia, kidnapped and forced to watch, boom. Lando betrays his friend just to stay alive, boom. The Empire's kicking ass, man. Every box is ticked on the way down, and the good guys are getting steamrolled. And then we get to the climax. Now, I'm not giving anything away. I'm sure most of you know, but listen, look, we tried to be censored here, okay, on the Peter Welsh Show for you lads. But, I will say this. Luke and Vader. the showdown. Lightsabers clashing, sparks flying. Vader's not even breaking a sweat here, man. I mean, he's just toying with Luke like a little cat and a mouse. And then the bombshell. Now that moment, you could never guess it, lads. Honestly, if you've never known the story of Vader, Star Wars, and you don't know what's going on, I honestly don't think you'd ever be able to to ever guess what happens in this. You know, I mean, you know that big moment. People who've never seen Star Wars still know that line, so maybe you know exactly what I'm on about. You know, babies are born knowing that line. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if somebody whispers something to you, you don't need subtitles. You just know. And poor Luke. This man's been training, sweating, running through swamps, flipping over. And what does he get for his efforts? Well, he goes to the toilet here. Now, this is just why Empire Strikes Back is one of the greatest movies of all time, lads. It genuinely is. You know why? Because the bad guys win. Now, I'm not giving away anything here because, as we all, I'm sure most of you know, there's sequels, right? We got episode 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, so the thing goes on and on and on, right? But the big twist in the story, that just has a ripple effect throughout the whole entire series. And you'll know exactly what I'm on about if you haven't seen this movie, like, I'm telling you. And, I mean, this was back 30, 40 years ago. The bad guys don't win in the movies back then. You know? Heroes are broken. They're down. The bad guys, they rule the world, and Han is frozen like a discounted pizza. You'll know what I mean if you see it. Luke sitting in his spaceship and a million questions, and Vader, well, he just walks away like the greatest mic drop you'd ever see on the planet. I mean, seriously, cape flowing in the wind, completely undefeated. That's it. Job done. Pack your bags, Stormtrooper boys. Let's go. That's the movie, and you're telling me you haven't seen it yet? Oh, lads, listen, I don't care if you got to steal your neighbor's Disney password. Rent a VHS from a museum, okay? Just build a time machine, go back to 1980. Just watch The Empire Strikes Back, because if you don't, Vader's coming for you. And unlike the Stormtroopers, he doesn't miss. All right, lads, the movie Inception. What an absolute blinding show. This movie, you could watch this movie 10 times over and it would still baffle you, and you'll pick up things as you go, but you'll still be wondering what the hell is going on. It takes about 10 times now. Maybe I'm just a dumbass, but you know, give me a bit of rope on this one. The lads, okay, imagine a movie that it doesn't just entertain, but it also challenges your perception of reality, and blurring the line between dreams and walking life. Now, imagine this film. It's so captivating that every time you watch it, like I'm saying, you're uncovering something new, like a detective. That's Christopher Nolan's Inception, and that's Christopher Nolan's mind, man. A masterpiece every man and woman needs to experience now. Now, at its heart, its real core, guys, Inception explores a universal question. How do we confront the unresolved aspects of our past while navigating the complexities of our present? Does that even make sense, what I'm saying? I don't even know, because I kind of black out when I talk about this movie. It's mad. And it dives into the human psyche, guys. Tackling love, loss, ambition, regret. Huge regret. Dom Cobb, played masterfully by DiCaprio. A man haunted by his past mistakes and just desperately trying to reunite with his children. I mean, your heart goes out to the guy. The conflict between Cobb's inner guilt and his outer mission, it creates a tension, lads, that grips everyone, regardless man or woman. Okay, lads, let's paint the picture, the background. Now, the movie takes place in a world where people can enter each other's dreams. Sounds weird, right? Cobb is a skill extractor, stealing secrets from within the subconscious mind. But this time, he's tasked with the opposite, planting an idea deep within someone's mind, a process called inception. And the stakes? Well, if he fails, he risks being trapped in a limbo of his own making and never seeing his children again. Now, the team assembles, guys. DiCaprio brings all this beautifully, beautifully wonderful played actors together in their mission. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hardy, Ellen Page. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, kind of the nerdy sort of type of guy. Tom Hardy, he's very cool in this movie, man. It's one of those guys you want to just go on the piss with, right? Not even a couple of beers. You want to go out in the absolute lash with the lad. I'm telling you, man. And Ellen Page, brilliant performance as well. Together, they navigate multiple layers of dreams within dreams. Each layer more surreal and dangerous than the last, and the tension escalates as the team faces unexpected obstacles, including Cobb's memories manifesting as deadly projections of his deceased wife, Mal. Did that make any sense? Now, here's the thing about the climax, lads. I could tell you what about the spoiler alert on this one, but actually, this movie is so confusing. Even if I told you, you still wouldn't get it. I still don't get it. Now, if you've seen the movie before, you probably know what I mean, right? But anyway, the climax is a symphony of action, emotion, and just sheer cinematic brilliance. And the dream collapses around the team as they race against time to achieve their goal. Cobb confronts Mal in an emotional showdown, finally letting go of the guilt that has held him captive. The spinning top in the final scene, that's all I'm going to say. So lads, Inception, it ain't just a movie. It's an experience. And I think a lot of us can relate to this sort of subconscious thing and people letting go of their guilt, why they're feeling guilty, why we hold on to things in our life. You know, I mean, it can be kind of heartbreaking if you really pay attention to the emotional side of things. And believe me, lads, there's so much to try and figure out in this movie. It's kind of hard to sort of plug into the emotional side of this movie, believe me, because there's so much going on, right? And it invites us all, men and women alike, to question our realities and reflect of our choices. I mean, seriously, look, maybe I'm kind of sounding corny here, right? But look, get a load of him. But seriously, it's a film about forgiveness, redemption, the power of ideas. And no matter your perspective, it is something profound to offer. And so why should everybody watch Inception? Well, because it's not just about dreams. It's about waking up to what truly matters in life, lads. And that's a journey we all need to take. The first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. Okay, lads. Imagine a world where you're stuck in a dead-end job, buying things you don't need, trying to impress people that you don't even know. And imagine blowing that world up. Be some satisfaction in many ways, wouldn't it? That, my friends, is Fight Club. That's what this is all about. It's a masterpiece that grabs you by the collar, shakes you awake, and dares you to ask, am I living or am I just existing? And if you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out on one of the most mind-bending, adrenaline-pumping, soul-searching experiences in film history. Peter. Wow. Now, Fight Club isn't just a movie, lads. It's a rebellion wrapped in a psychological thriller. And, you know, on the surface, it's about a man played by Edward Norton. He's tired of the more boring modern day life office job, right? Guy's going crazy. He's stuck in a consumer-driven existence, numbed by the IKEA catalog shopping, and he doesn't sleep. And then in comes Tyler. Brad Pitt, baby. I mean, this is one of the movies that really put Brad Pitt on the map as like a Hollywood heartthrob, and probably one of the coolest, most charismatic Hollywood actors of all time. Genuinely, this was one of his best. And you know, it's together, the two lads, they ignite a movement, Fight Club. And it's a raw underground community where men pummel each other, not just for glory, but to feel alive. And here's the twist. Tyler's not just challenging the system He's challenging the narrator's entire reality. Now, why do you think I'm calling it narrator? Well, you'll see. Fight Club isn't just a movie about fighting. It's about fighting back against society, conformity, and even yourself. Now, let's paint the picture, lads, here. The background. Directed by David Fincher. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic directing. Fight Club, it was released in 1999, so we're going way back here, lads. A time when society was kind of teetering on the edge of the new millennium, right? It was the perfect storm of cultural dissatisfaction, you could say. And people were questioning corporate greed, materialism, the empty promises of capitalism, genuinely. And Fincher brought that to life with his signature dark, gritty style in this movie. And the movie dives into themes of identity, masculinity, mental health, all wrapped up in razor-sharp dialogue and unforgettable visuals, lads, really. And let's not forget the legendary Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, if you think this woman is mad, woo, 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 the chaotic wild card who stirs up both love and destruction. And then the story takes a wild turn, lads, a dramatic 180. It grows beyond its basement roots. It starts as a raw primal escape for a handful of men, transforms into a full-blown anti-establishment movement called Project Mayhem. And Tyler's philosophies become way more extreme, more dangerous. The narrator, our guide through this madness, it starts to unravel. And the tension builds as the lines between what's real and what's imagined blur. We, the audience, we're kind of pulled into the chaos, questioning everything we know about the characters, the story, and even ourselves. And then the moment of truth hits us like a freight train. I'm not giving anything away, by the way. Okay? But there is one of the greatest twists of all time that you'll ever see in a movie. All I'll say is this. It flips the whole movie on its head. Suddenly every fight, every conversation, every act of destruction takes on a new meaning. And it's not just about rebellion. It's about self-destruction as a path to self-discovery. And, no, we're going to leave it there on that part. Now, then at the end of this twist, lads, you do sort of wonder, was this all worth it? What was this all about in many ways? Fight Club doesn't hand you answers. It forces you to wrestle with its meaning. And, it's about breaking free from shackles, but it's also a cautionary tale about losing yourself in a process. Fight Club, it's more than a movie. It's a mirror, lads. It forces us to confront our own lives, our choices, and the systems we buy into without question. I mean, I think you'd be amazed. Like, if you're really paying attention to this movie, you'll be amazed how people can actually get brainwashed in real life. Now, I know we're talking about a movie here, but, if you're really focusing on watching, observing this movie, you go, oh my God, man, this happens all the time. And it's a bit disturbing. I mean, it's gritty, it's provocative, it's utterly unforgettable. So if you haven't seen it yet, lads, what are you waiting for? But remember the first rule. And once you watch it, you'll never stop thinking about it. All right, ladies and gents, we are back. It is movie trivia time. Fun Friday, lads. This is 3 movies for all men and all women. I honestly reckon, right? I've been doing my research, I've been doing my homework, and, I really want to delve into some cool movies, lads, that you might have seen before, but maybe you should revisit them. Or if you haven't seen them and it's always been on your list, well, get to it, lads, because these are 3 great movies, and not just like action, right? There's so much character in the background with these, and, we can relate to these movies. Let's get into it. Peter. Wow. Okay, here we go, lads. We had The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. We only reviewed that only just a few days ago. But today we are reviewing The Two Towers and 2 more movies to come after this review. So we'll keep you in suspense. Unless you actually read the description. But, okay. So lads, listen, I honestly reckon whether you're man or woman, these are very, very good movies, right? Listen, I'm not a big sci-fi guy. Okay, in fact, I go the other way. I was even saying this when I was reviewing Fellowship of the Ring. I detest sci-fi movies. Like, detest them. I'm like, oh, go away. But if it's Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, I'm all in. And I'm not lying here. I'm all in with these. They are absolutely fantastic. Now, The Two Towers, okay. It's the second in the trilogy, right? You've obviously got Fellowship of the Ring 1, Two Towers number 2, and then Return of the King number 3. But The Two Towers, few sequels, lads, they dare to expand the world as boldly as The Two Towers. Here, Middle-earth fractures into chaos. The fellowship we grew to love is splintered, yet somehow the heart of the story beats louder than ever. Now, the stakes could not be higher. And Frodo and Sam, they're the main, I suppose you could call them the main two characters of the movie. You can argue me on that one, fair enough. But, you know, they inch closer to Mordor. That's their journey here. Their path shadowed by a treacherous, wicked little Gollum fella. I mean, this guy, oh, he'd give you the creeps. A creature teetering between malice and redemption. Meanwhile, Rohan's kingdom crumbles under Saruman's cruel garbage, and the free peoples of Middle-earth face the suffocating threat of annihilation. It's a tale of division, unity. Our heroes, they're scattered, right? There's about sort of like 4 or 5 different stories going on in the movie. It's kind of a bit strange that way. But they're all fighting separate battles, emotionally and physically. Aragorn, Legolas, the Orlando Bloom character, and Gimli, they all hunt their captive friends, while Frodo and Sam grapple with the powering weight of one ring. And then there's Gandalf. I mean, you gotta love this guy. Reborn, carrying the wisdom and power the world desperately needs. The tension swells with every step. The desperation of Rohan's people, the slow corruption of Frodo, and the inner conflict of Gollum create a relentless drumbeat of unease. Maybe that's the word. Saruman's army swells, and Helm's Deep becomes the last hopes of survival. Now then comes the siege at Helm's Deep. Now, this is a battle scene, but I honestly think even the ladies out there, if you're not into war movies or action movies per se, I still think you'll love this scene because, again, it's driven by emotion. A masterclass in cinematic tension and action. The rain pours, the arrows fly, the walls of the ancient fortress groan under the weight of Saruman's army. Just when hope seems lost, Gandalf's promise, Dawn, arrives. We won't go into too much detail. Riding with certain people to shatter the darkness. But the victory feels fleeting, lads. The battle maybe or maybe not be won, but there's a lot more to go here because this is only teeing up for Return of the King, baby. And Frodo grows weaker, Sam more desperate, the shadow of Mordor looms even closer. Middle-earth may have glimpsed light, but the path ahead is darker than ever. I mean, honestly, lads, when I saw this movie, you know, there was a couple of scenes in here now when, you know, I was a bit bored, right? When there's the talking tree and all this, right? I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I was like, oh my God, what am I watching? But then you get to some of those battle scenes. Now, I wouldn't be a guy that's into battle scenes per se, right? I like the emotion behind things. Now, look, there's some that are, you know, great, right? But I can kind of get bored of battle scenes. But, you know, Gandalf, he gives you a message of pure hope, man, at one stage. You know, he's explaining the afterlife. See, I'm getting choked up. Like, the guy is pure poetry. Pure poetry in motion, man. And, you know, you got to see this movie. You've got to see this movie. Even if it's just cross it off your list. I honestly don't think anybody watching this movie would go, really? That was it? I think you're going to be glued, and I think you're going to be putting on The Return of the King, which is the last in the trilogy after that. And I wouldn't be surprised if after that you start putting on all three of The Hobbit afterwards. Strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen, because these are fantastic movies. Okay, lads, what's up next? Here we go. The next baby you gotta see. Forrest Gump. Now, it's a timeless classic, lads. It really is. What if life's greatest wisdom came not from the most brilliant minds, but from someone with a simple heart and an unshakable belief in goodness? Really, Forrest Gump is not just a movie, lads. It's a heartfelt journey through life's unpredictability, you know, and it's a story every man and woman must see to understand the power of resilience, love, and just sheer goddamn kindness. Now, at its core, Forrest Gump, lads, it's about an extraordinary man in many ways living an ordinary life. Or maybe it's the other way around. It's hard to kind of figure out because the guy's a genius in a lot of things he does in this movie, but at the same time, you're thinking, oh, poor guy, he's not all with it here. So you figure this one out. And, you know, Forrest, obviously played by an unbelievable Tom Hanks. Oscar-winning performance. Yeah, he won the Oscar for this, if you didn't know. He faces challenges that would crush most of us, right? Low IQ relentless, bullying, and a world that often underestimates him, but his innocence and steadfast heart turn these struggles into triumphs. Lads, and the conflict lies in how Forrest navigates the chaos of life, yearning for one thing, the love of his childhood, Jenny. Now, let's paint the picture, lads. Forrest, he's from, I think it's a Greenbow, Alabama. I think something like that. But his life intersects with some of the most significant events of the 20th century, lads. From meeting presidents to influencing pop culture, his journey is a fascinating mix of luck, destiny, and sheer perseverance. Jeez, I can't even speak. Yet his unwavering love for Jenny, it's heartbreaking. It'll break your heart, lads. A woman haunted by her own demons, oh, believe you me, grounds the film in humanity. And Forrest's simplicity contracts with Jenny's complexity, creating a poignant narrative about love, loss, and the choices we make. I think a lot of people can relate to Forrest in this, guys, and Jenny. I think a lot of men and women on both sides have been in this type of scenario in their lives. Now, Forrest's life unfolds like a series of adventures, lads. Becoming a college football star, mega star, serving heroically in Vietnam, starting a successful shrimp business, and then inadvertently shaping history along the way. And meanwhile, his unspoken conflict deepens. No matter how much he achieves, Jenny remains out of reach, drifting in and out of his life. As Forrest grows, so does our understanding of his quiet strength and his remarkable ability to forgive and love unconditionally. I think your heart's going to break when you see this movie, lads. Even just thinking about this movie, it breaks me, man. The emotional peak of Forrest. When Forrest and Jenny finally reconnect. I'm not giving away much here, lads, okay? Don't worry. And she reveals something. This moment, everything Forrest stands for unconditional love, acceptance, and the simple joy of family, man. Forrest's world, for all its incredible adventures, finally narrows to one thing that truly matters. Love. Now, the story ends, and by the way, no spoilers, it ends with Forrest sending his son off to school. Watching him with the simple pride, lads, and hope his mother once showed him. I mean, it's heartbreaking, man, you know? Like, Forrest took over the mother's position, then now full circle. It's so wonderful. The feather floating in the breeze reminds us that life is unpredictable. It's our choices and values that give it meaning. And Forrest's life, though seemingly shaped by chance, is a testament to kindness, humility, and resilience. Now, why everybody must see Forrest Gump? It's an Oscar-winning movie, won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor. It's... You know, guys, I don't think how many movie reviews have I done? And I don't think I've got this kind of, whoa, get going here, right? I'm kind of getting emotional when I think back of Forrest Gump. It transcends gender, age, time, because it speaks to the essence of being a human being. Call me cringe, call me corny, but men will find inspiration in Forrest's determination and honor. Women will see the strength of unconditional love and the complexity of Jenny's journey, I gotta admit. Together, they'll find a story that reminds us all to keep running no matter how hard life gets. Because as Forrest says, you never know what you're going to get. And that's what makes life beautiful. You gotta watch Forrest Gump. Alright folks, let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Now, or as I like to call it, the handsome, the heinous, and the downright unhygienic, really. This is the movie that made cowboy hats quite cool, I gotta say, alright? You know, it's poncho's a fashion statement, you know? And this is the movie that... squinting an acceptable form of communication. It forget dialogue, like Clint, I mean, I can barely speak myself. Clint Eastwood's face did all the talking. Like, I mean, this really, I think, put him on the map. This is the film, it's the holy grail of Westerns. And the pinnacle of badassery, and a 3-hour tutorial on how to chew a cigar like your teeth are made of steel. Peter. Wow. So guys, this is number 10 on the iMDB top 250 of all time. Now, many of you may or may not know, we're going through all 250. It's going to probably take me the whole entire year of 2025. I'm going to be honest with you, I did a rough calculation a few days ago. I was like, whoa man, this is going to be a marathon, but we're going to go for it, lads, and we're at number 10. And you know, what is this movie all about? Well, 3 guys, a desert, a buried fortune, and enough tension to make your grandpa's belt buckle pop off. We've got Blondie, the good, who's so kind of cool, you could make an ice cube shiver, lads. I mean, we've got Angel Eyes, the bad, who could kind of stare down a grizzly bear and make it apologize. And then Tuco, the ugly, who's what you get when you mix a used car salesman, a raccoon, an overeager cousin who always wants to borrow money. Together they embark on the most cutthroat treasure hunt since your family tried to divide up Granddad's will. Now, we've got to appreciate the genius of Sergio Leone here, lads. Really. I mean, it's... This man... This is made in 1966. 1966? You believe that? It's unbelievable. And it's in the top 10? It's incredible. I mean, and he was conducting an orchestra made up of gunfire, epic stairs, music so dramatic it made Beethoven's Fifth Symphony sound like a nursery rhyme, man. And, you know, the score? Wow, it's scientifically proven to make anything 10 times more intense. Like, try it. Next time you're waiting for a text back, just hum it. Instant drama. Now, Blondie and Tuco, they kind of had this, you know, hilarious partnership where Blondie keeps turning Tuco in for bounty money. Then breaking him out before he gets hanged, sort of thing, you know. I won't give away too much here. Talk about kind of trust issues here. There's a little bit going on here. Meanwhile, we got Angel Eyes out there looking for gold, staring holes into people's soul. And along the way, we get gunfights, betrayals, desert dehydration that'd make you down a pint of water here, lads. One of the best war scenes in a Western now, because, oh yeah, this is all happening during the Civil War. And nothing says Wild West adventure like casually dodging cannonballs while trying to dig up some cash, baby. And then, oh baby, we get to the standoff. Now, I'm not going to give it away, so don't worry. But I'll just tell you sort of the background of it a little bit here. We get to one of the most iconic showdowns in cinema history, because it was one of the first, lads. It was the original. You know, it's like Brando. Brando was the original of stillness acting. He created it. He invented it. So everybody from him got it from him. So how the hell could you say that they're better than him? Anyway, I'm kind of going off the beaten track here. But I picture this. 3 dudes in a graveyard, guns ready, sweat dripping, eyes darting. The music building like your anxiety when your boss says, "We need to talk, Peter." It's a scene very tense that you could sharpen a knife on it, and then bang. Guns go off, bullets fly, and then there's, well, one man standing. That's all I'll say. And then one of the guys leaves one of the other guys some gold. He makes him dig it up and then for good measure leaves him tied up with a noose around his neck. Like, what? Jeez. Yeah, but don't worry. Maybe he does something with the rope. We won't give it away too much. And then one of them heads off into the sunset, hat tilted, leaving us wondering, how does one man look that cool all the time? The good, the bad, the ugly. It's not just a Western, lads. It's kind of like a lifestyle, It's something that you gotta experience. It's the reason slow motion close-ups exists. Yeah. It's proof that a man with no name can come more charisma than 1,000 superheroes combined. So next time you hear that, well, you're about to witness something legendary. Alright lads, let me ask you this. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, you know what's missing? I need a wizard, a bunch of hairy-footed weird hobbits, and a jewelry problem so big it could end the world? No? Well, that's exactly why you need to watch Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Because trust me lads, your Netflix queue is not going to teach you what to do if your best friend suddenly turns into a power-hungry gremlin over a shiny ring. I'm not even into sci-fi. In fact, I'll even go further. I detest sci-fi movies, TV programs. I hate them. But when it comes to Lord of the Rings, totally different story. Peter. Alright, here's the deal, lads. So, in the movie Middle-earth, it's in big trouble. Deep trouble. Guy named Sauron, alright? Literally flaming eyeball, weird fella, wants to dominate everyone using the One Ring. And isn't this your average bling, lads? This ring doesn't just sparkle. It corrupts your soul and turns you into a crazy, wide-eyed psychopath, okay? The only way to save the world? Destroy it. Really simple mission. And where's the conveniently indestructible price of evil located? Oh, you know. Just a quick hike into the most dangerous volcano ever. Guarded by orcs, these aggressive little fellas. Goblins and, yeah, a giant fiery demon. Sounds easy, right? Now I gotta say, lads, this movie isn't just a story. It's an amazing masterpiece by the director, Peter Jackson. It's incredible. I mean, you've got epic landscapes, the kind you'd sell your house to visit, friendships so pure, in fairness, they tear you up. I gotta admit, it even got me, lads. Action sequences that'll have you clutching your couch cushions. And let's not forget Gandalf, played by Sir Ian McKellen, who's basically the fantasy equivalent of your wise but slightly unhinged grandpa on booze, right? Telling you to take the most ridiculous risks with zero plan. And then you've got the Fellowship. Now, I suppose an unlikely crew of hobbits, right? Men, elf, dwarf, Gandalf joins them too. They go on this journey and they face, huge storms, stormy mountains. They face creepy forests, a whole bunch of near-death situations. Along the way, they learn that the ring isn't just hard to carry physically. It's a mental battle, a spiritual battle as well. And then you got Frodo. Now, he's a bit of a wimp, this little fella. But in very many ways, lads, he's a reluctant hero and gets hit with the weight of the world while the Fellowship tries to keep it all together. And because, spoiler alert maybe, they don't. Because evil never waits patiently in line, lads. It throws orcs at you every chance it gets. And then the climax. You're in the mines of Moria, I think that's what it's called. The walls are shaking, the drums of doom are pounding. Insane soundtrack, by the way, and the beats to this, the musical score it's a masterpiece. It really is, lads. And then you've got a towering demon of shadow and flames. This thing looked like it skipped anger management classes, lads. Gandalf tries to stand his ground, delivering the line, "You shall not pass." Now, I know everybody's probably heard that saying. I quite honestly, I think that's cringe and corny. I think it's, go away from me. But when you look at the acting performance, it's amazing by Gandalf, by Ian McKellen. And he got Oscar nominated for this, by the way, for this movie. Ian McKellen, the supporting actor. And like, just when you think everything is safe, things are gone. Your heart sinks, lads. The Fellowship is broken. You're screaming what happens next. But that's the brilliance. Now, what's it all about, really? Okay, like, it's not just epic battles and rings, lads. All right, it's not. I mean, obviously there's that, but again, like a true masterpiece movie, you have the human side of them. We can all relate to this. It's about hope, perseverance, friendship in the face of overwhelming darkness. It reminds us that even the smallest people can change the course of history. I mean, really, you can look back at your history and stuff, and let's be real. Once you start, you're locked in for the whole trilogy, lads, and we'll cover the whole trilogy as we go here. And honestly, isn't it better than scrolling through TikTok for 3 hours? Watch it. You gotta watch it. And believe me, you'll be putting on The Two Towers, which is the next one afterwards, followed by The Return of the King. Lord of the Rings. Truly epic. Imagine this. You're sitting there about to have your favorite dinner, lads, and you're about to dig into a glorious stack of pancakes. And the couple next to you suddenly whip out a couple of guns. Guns, right? And announces a robbery. Now, do you panic? Well, do you call for help? Or think, this feels oddly cinematic, right? Welcome to Pulp Fiction, lads, because a movie where chaos and brilliance collide over pancakes, royale with cheese, and a mysterious glowing briefcase. Peter. Wow. Now, here's the thing. Most movies, lads, right? They spoon feed you with the story to, with a good beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Pulp Fiction doesn't care about the traditional storytelling needs. I mean, it's sheer genius what Tarantino has done. He was really the first to throw in all sorts of weird random scenes and put them into a movie. He was the first. I mean, it was a ballsy move, lads. And it throws you into timeline as scrambled as Vincent Vega's breakfast here. By the way, that's Vincent Vega from the character in Pulp Fiction, if you've not seen this. It's confusing. It's wild. You'll find yourself asking, why are we rooting for hitmen who argue about foot massages and accidentally blow people's heads off? I mean, because Pulp Fiction makes you question things. Makes you question a lot of things. Is good really good? Is bad really bad? And most importantly, what's in that damn briefcase? So let's just paint the picture here now. Background, lads. 1994, this movie came out. 1994, okay? Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, it was the cinematic wrecking ball Hollywood didn't know it needed. I mean, it really did. It really needed to have that spanner in the works, that fly in the soup, to adjust things, right? At the time, movies, they were polished, predictable, and, a lot of them were a bit boring, And then this comes along. Kind of a dark comedy, kind of ridiculous, a film that intertwines stories about hitmen, a boxer, a mob boss, a drugged out Uma Thurman, we won't give away too much, humor, violence, dialogue so sharp, you'd frame it on a picture frame on your wall. And you're drawn into bizarre, gripping situations, lads. Vincent Vega by Travolta, dancing awkwardly with Mia Wallace. Fantastic scene, by the way. I mean, it's amazing the way two people can just light up the screen with just a simple dance, and you're right there with them, lads. You're involved. You're included in that scene. It's insane. And then Oh God, where do I keep going? Then you got Jules, right? Samuel L. Jackson delivering a Bible verse so terrifying and odd, if you could call it that. It'd have you reevaluating your life choices. And then you got Bruce Willis, a boxer who defies mob rules, somehow ends up in a pawn shop straight out of your own worst nightmare and creepy nightmares. And then each scene, it builds tension, it flips your expectations, it leaves you hungry for more, just like the Big Kahuna Burger. And then the film takes you on one of the tensest, funniest, most weird standoffish scenes in movie history. Jules, wielding his signature monologue about redemption, Samuel L. Jackson versus Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. You'll get what I mean when you see the movie, lads, if you haven't seen it. The most chaotic diner robbers ever. But now you're not just watching story, you're living the story. And every heartbeat, it matches the tension on screen as you realize that for all its chaos, Pulp Fiction is weaving a surprisingly profound tale about second chances and unlikely heroes. So why does everybody need to watch Pulp Fiction? Well, lads, it's more than a movie. It's a goddamn experience. It's masterclass in dialogue, storytelling. You'll find yourself laughing and then cringing at the same time within the space of 2 or 3 seconds. And you'll understand what a Royale with cheese is, by the way, after this movie. That's for goddamn sure. Trust me, you'll never look at a diner, a briefcase, and John Travolta the same way again. And I said it already, what is in that goddamn briefcase? Everybody is just dying to know. Everybody is always wondering what is in it. We think it's a certain thing, but is it? Really? I don't know. Lads, pure goddamn masterpiece. This put Tarantino on the map. Yeah, he had Reservoir Dogs before this, but it really did, guys. It escalated him to that next level. Hollywood A-lister of screenplay writers, directors. It truly masterpiece. And back in 1994 when it was out, it took over the world by storm. It was pop culture. It was alive, lads. I mean, it was cool to watch this movie. And not just because it's cool, it's goddamn amazing. Hey lads, imagine standing in the face of unimaginable evil. Humanity seems to be swallowed whole by darkness. World War II, we all know the story. Would you have the courage to fight it, to save someone's life? Imagine saving over 1,000. That's the story of Schindler's List. And a film that it's not just a movie, but a mirror reflecting the very best and the very worst of what it means to be human. Peter. Wow. Obviously, guys, set in World War II, just world ravaged by the Holocaust and that absolute C-word, Adolf Hitler, where millions were being slaughtered simply because of just who they were. Yeah, that's it. Racist son of so-and-so. Oskar Schindler, a German businessman and a member of the Nazi Party, finds himself at a crossroads. And, he begins the film as a man of ambition, self-interest. He's motivated, exploiting Jewish labor for profit. Let's not make a mistake about it, lads. The guy ends up being a hero, but he was one of the dark side here. He was one of the dark lords of the Sith here, and he was taking advantage at the start of the movie, taking advantage of the Jews. And, as the horror escalates around him, though, families torn apart, children crying out for their parents, lives is extinguished in the blink of an eye, Schindler is confronted with the ultimate question. Will he remain complicit in the system that's destroying millions? Or will he risk everything to save who he can? So a bit of background, lads, if you've never heard of Oskar Schindler. Okay, look, it's directed by Steven Spielberg. Masterpiece. He won the Oscar for this. Incredible. Schindler's List, lads, it's based on a true story of Oskar Schindler. That's his real name. And the 1,200 Jewish men and women and children he saved during the Holocaust. I mean, Whoa, I'm actually getting tearing up here almost. Shot in haunting black and white, that the film immerses you in the bleak, harrowing reality of the Nazi-occupied Poland. It's not just a history lesson, it's an experience. It's one that forces you to confront the atrocities of the past so they're never repeated again. And this is where transition here comes in for Oscar, guys. During the movie, the tension builds hugely as Schindler, he moves from a passive observer to an active savior. He begins forging documents, bribing Nazi officials, risking his wealth and life to protect his workers. Meanwhile, we're introduced to Eamon Goth. Oh dear Lord. Pure evil, this guy, whose cruelty contrasts sharply with Schindler's growing humanity. Each scene of suffering and injustice raises the stakes higher and higher, leaving you questioning, how far can a man go to stand against an ocean of hatred? And the climax is gut-wrenching. Schindler, having spent his entire fortune, and this guy was a rich man, he saved it, he blew it all to save lives, breaks down, lamenting the fact that he couldn't save more. This car, he says, and I quote, "This car, why did I keep it?" 10 people right there. It's a moment that, see, look, I'm even getting emotional here. Insane. It's a moment that sears into your soul. It's a powerful, powerful reminder of both the fragility and the strength of humanity. And Schindler, he saves more than 1,000 lives, yet he's consumed by guilt for those that he could not help. It's in this moment you realize the cost of doing good in the face of evil. But there is hope, lads, there is. The final scenes show the descendants of Schindler's Jews. Thousands of them live because of him. That's right. Generations after generations. Absolutely amazing. And it reminds us that even in the darkest times, one person, they can make an extraordinary difference. You know, watching Schindler's List, it ain't easy. It's not supposed to be. It's necessary. It reminds us the depths of the dark side and the way we can fall into that pit and the heights to which you can rise at the same time. It's a film we'll never forget, because forgetting would be a goddamn tragedy. This isn't just a movie, it's a call to action. And to be brave, to stand up, to remember, because as the film so powerfully teaches us, and there's a quote here, "Whoever saves one life saves the world entire." Ladies and gentlemen, Schindler's List. We all know the Holocaust. We all know about World War II and Adolf Hitler. Some people might not know of Oskar Schindler. You might have heard the movie. You might think it's too intense to watch. But I'm just going to say it really simply. You need to watch this movie. So let's talk about Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. The movie that had way too many endings, that's for sure. I mean, it was, they dragged it out, lads. It's a great show, but way too many endings, don't we? Like, sometimes it feels like we're all just walking towards something we don't know how to finish, like the world's falling apart, and we're just trying to hold on to whatever we can. I think that a lot of us can relate to this in many ways of our life. And what happens when you fought so long, you can't even remember what it was all for? Peter. Wow. Okay, Middle Earth. It's crumbling. It's going down so fast, man. Everywhere you look, darkness is swallowing the light, and the fight never stops. You know, you'd think by now they realize it's hopeless too. Right? But no, in fairness, there's still a fight to be had. And, you know, Lords of the Rings, it's very good this way. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of character in this. You know, the free people are scattered, broken, hanging by a thread. But the real question is, how do you keep going when you don't even know if it'll matter in the end? All right, bit of background. Now, I'm sure most people have seen this movie, but hey, you never know. We're talking about a bunch of regular folks who got caught up, lads, in something way bigger than themselves. And Frodo, the smallest of them, with this insane responsibility, a hobbit of all people, barely out of the Shire, and suddenly it's all on him to destroy the One Ring. Yeah, no one should ever have to carry that. But it's always the ones who you shouldn't end up relying on doing the most, right? You know, you'd be surprised. And he wasn't alone. Sam, his best friend, never left his side. You know, it's kind of heartwarming, I gotta say. It's like they knew something, maybe that together they could make it through the worst of it. And every step closer to Mount Doom, the weight of all it started to crush them down, lads. It started to really break them down. You know, Frodo couldn't even see a way out anymore at the stage. You know, I won't give away too much. The ring, damn ring, man. It's claws in deep. And Sam, you know, very heartwarming, you know, and it almost break your hearts. You know, that it's corny, cringy a bit, but Sam kept pushing him forward, and you got to say, it does actually, it sells you, man. And, you know, no matter how bad it got, he was there, you know, and it was actually very charming, in fairness. And it's insane, really. You look at them and wonder, what is it that makes people going? Even when it feels like nothing can be saved, is there a way out? Then you get to the real gut punch, lads. You know, it's not about just fighting the armies of darkness. It's about fighting that voice in your head that tells you you're not enough. You're too small to make a difference. Frodo has that moment. Sam has the moment. Hell, we all do, right? Eventually, at some point in our lives, like I'm saying. And you can't beat the enemy. You have to face that feeling of, I can't do this. And it's only that they're at their lowest that you realize maybe they've already done more than they ever thought they could do. And then the ending. We won't give away anything here now, lads, on the Peter Walsh Show, but, you know, eventually it is over. The fight ends. But it's not this big, loud, perfect ending, which I do applaud Peter Jackson, the director, for this. You know, that there's no clean wrap-up. It's messy. It's messy. It's the little moments that matter. The ones when you think you've lost everything, but you find something you weren't expecting. And maybe it's just the idea that after all of it, the blood, the sweat, the sacrifices, there's still room for hope. And that's, no matter how far you've gone, you feel, you can always choose to keep walking. You know, ladies and gents, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, it is a very, very good show. And if you've seen it before, well, hey, take out the trilogy, man, because in many ways, it's a masterpiece. But in many ways, it's, like we were saying, very messy, all over the place, rough, way too many endings. I wasn't impressed with that. I was just like, oh my Lord, will this ever end? You know, they did drag it out a bit too much. And at the end, just a little too corny. But overall, fantastic movie. Get out the trilogy, lads, and start watching. And hey, queue up The Hobbit maybe afterwards too. All right, lads, this is one hell of a show. 12 Angry Men. Okay, imagine this scenario. Picture this. You're locked in a room with 11 different strangers. You don't know any of them. All debating the fate of a young man's life. Not just that, the pressure is so immense, the stakes couldn't be higher, right? You're in court. This guy's life is on the line. What happens when 12 jurors with their own biases, convictions, and fears are forced to confront their beliefs in the pursuit of justice? 12 Angry Men is a timeless film, lads, that will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about fairness, morality, and human nature. Peter. Wow. Okay, lads, now the central conflict of this movie, right, it revolves around kind of a simple murder trial, one would think, where a young man is accused of killing his father, right? So, you know, the stakes are very high here. And then with the jury's initial vote, almost unanimous in favor of conviction, right? I mean, it's quite impressive in a weird, disturbing way how, yeah, that's it, Cutthroat, clear case, cut, done. The guy's guilty. But one juror, juror number 8, begins to question the evidence and insists that they deliberate further. I mean, it's like his stance challenges the group. It stirring up deep divisions between those who are ready to convict and those who believe there is more to uncover. So let's paint the picture here, lads. Now, this movie was released in 1957, and I'm telling you, lads, I only watched this for the very first time only just a few years ago, and it blew my mind away, honestly. It just blew my mind away. It absolutely messes with your head. It's timeless. You know, there's no special effects. There's no CGI. There's none needed, because this is about what we all go through on a day-to-day basis when, you know, we're so convinced that something, and then all of a sudden then someone just comes along with just that little extra viewpoint, that little stone in your shoe, right? That just makes you collapse and wonder, have you made the proper decision, you know? I mean, really. And it's directed by Sidney Lumet. It's adapted by, I think, is it Rose's teleplay. And the film takes place in a single room. 12 jurors deliberate the fate of a teenage boy. And, you know, as the tension rises, the film shines a light on the complexities of us. How much idiots we can be, all of us. And it exposes prejudice, assumptions, and the need for careful deliberation in the justice system. I mean, if this is anything to go by in real life, this is freaky what these people get up to in these back rooms. Okay, so then the rising action here, lads, as juror number 8 begins to present doubts, right? The jury slowly begins to unravel. And then kind of a bit of a, you know, one by one, the juror reveals their hidden biases, their fears, their personal struggles, their attitude toward the trial shift, right? Arguments, and I mean arguments, get bloody heated here, lad. Personal history surface. Everyone's sense of justice is tested. The tension mounts, right, as juror number 8 fights to ensure, lads, that each individual examines the evidence with a clear mind, pushing the other jurors to question their initial assumptions and confront the truth beneath the surface. Now, then we really get down to it here now, lads, all right? The climax occurs when, like, the jury's final vote is tied, all right? And the one last critical piece of evidence is revealed, tipping the scales in favor of doubt. Juror number 8, was he right? And the intensity in the room is insane, as each juror is forced to confess their conscience. I mean, can you imagine what it's like to be in these rooms? If you're watching this, have you ever been in this? I'm sure you know what it is all about. I don't, but I mean, you really do get a really good sense of, whoa, man, I don't want to be in this situation. Seriously, you know, jury duty, it's no joke, man, especially if it's a murder trial. And like the emotional weight of the case, whether or not an innocent boy will lose his life, it reaches its peak. Now, I won't give anything away, lads, okay? But you've got to watch this movie now. At the end, they obviously come to a decision. I won't say either which way. But I mean, it's transformed each and every person in that room. I mean, and it's fascinating. Again, 1957 movie, lads. 1957. It's insane how good this powerful, real human, raw emotion, lads, I'm telling you. And, you know, 12 Angry Men, it's not just about a trial. It really is about the complexities of human judgment, the danger of prejudice, and the importance of standing up for what's right. And I think we could all take a page out of this juror number 8's book here, even when it's uncomfortable. And that doesn't give away anything, by the way, all right? I'm just saying that juror number 8 is, you know, he did have powerful opinions and really kept his ways and not being stubborn, but just looking at the facts and walking through it, you know? And like the film is essential watch because, you know, it reminds us that justice is not about the law. It's about the people who interpret the law. So we're going to wrap it up here, lads. But, you know, 12 Angry Men, it's not just a courtroom drama. It's a profound exploration of democracy, moral responsibility, the power of dialogue. Whether you're a fan of classic cinema, a student of human nature, the film will make you think long after the credits roll. Seriously, I would be surprised. Like, I'm sure, there's no doubt, I think, you'll watch this movie and you'll see the different opinions in the room. And, you know, their approach to looking at the evidence. I'm very certain here, you'll actually know someone who's very similar to one of these characters. And you're like, oh my God, that reminds me of Uncle Joe or someone. Like, we all know someone who's in this jury room. It's insane, man. It's actually kind of freaky. And it'll make you think long after the credits roll. It's a masterpiece that proves the power of one voice and importance of standing up for truth, even when it feels like the odds are stacked against you. Ladies and gentlemen, I recommend 12 Angry Men. You know that moment when you're scrolling through Netflix and all the streaming services out there, lads, and you aimlessly think and you say to yourself, what's the point of life anymore? Well, you know, the point of life is to watch The Godfather Part 2. Because this is probably the greatest sequel of all time. Peter. Wow. See, here's the problem, right, lads? With The Godfather Part 2, when somebody hasn't seen it, they think it's a lot about, you know, mobsters, violence, and it's just a bunch of guys eating spaghetti and cannoli, right? No. The Godfather Part 2, it's a masterclass in family, betrayal, power, big one, and regret. Huge, deep regret for one of the main characters. I won't give anything away, but, you know, it's like Shakespeare, but with better outfits, more creative ways to settle arguments, whether it's killing somebody, whacking somebody, or whether it's actually having it just out-to-out, face-to-face with somebody. Normal communication, right? That's what you'd be thinking. But, I mean, guys, you know, you got Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro probably gives the greatest performance he's ever given. And he's only in a supporting role here. And let's not forget, he's playing the Marlon Brando figure of Vito Corleone. He's now being the younger version of him in Godfather Part 2. It's gripping, it's riveting. Oh, let's go. Let's keep going. Okay, lads, let me set the picture here for you. You got the movies, the sequel, the prequel to the original Godfather. It's like if time travel actually worked, but without the confusion of Doc Brown screaming at you. You've got young Vito Corleone, like we said, De Niro, building his empire in the early 1900s. And, of course, Michael Corleone, Al Pacino, in the 1950s. In the dismantling his soul, brick by brick. It's two timelines, one epic tragedy, and about 47,000 Oscar-worthy performances. The flashbacks, amazing. And, you know, the movie takes you on a journey, lads. So gripping. Like, you'll forget that your popcorn's in your hand if you were watching this in the cinema. And the tension in every corner. Michael trying to hold everything together, okay? The crumbling empire coming down on top of him. You've got Fredo, the sweet, useless loser brother Fredo, making the world's worst decisions. And flashbacks to young Vito, De Niro, proving that if you mess with an Italian dude, you're going to get in trouble. And then, the betrayal. Oh, dear Lord. This will make you think your own family, lads. This will make you think your friends. Are they really this close to me? Will they screw me over? I won't even give away the line that might actually kind of give away a little bit, right? But there's one line in this. People even still say this to this day, lads. 30 to 40 years later, people are still quoting this line every single day. You know, on YouTube, on streaming services, on social media like TikToks and things like this. Even, you know, your own friend would probably even say it to you. You know, it would haunt you like the time you accidentally liked your ex's Instagram's post from a couple of years ago. Like the heartbreak, the drama. the sheer poetry of it all, and it's just done in such a classical way, a masterpiece from Francis Ford Coppola. And it's the moment is why we, like, as humans, invented movies in the first place. Now, at the end of this movie, lads, you'll be sitting there kind of probably stunned in silence, wondering what the hell has just happened. What is family? What is loyalty? Does this stuff really happen in the world? Well, that's something you're going to have to ask yourself. Is there a wrong way to eat spaghetti? And you'll realize something so profound, lads. The Godfather 2 isn't just a movie, it's a goddamn experience. And, you know, it's the cinematic equivalent of that one perfect slice of pizza that ruins all other pizzas forever. Now, unless we're talking about maybe Terminator 2, that was an unbelievable sequel. But Godfather, I think has to be the masterpiece. Okay, lads, so let's just round this up, all right? So why does everyone need to see this movie? Because if you don't, someone eventually in your life is going to corner you at a party and spend 45 minutes explaining what you're missing out on. Now, I'm doing it in the shorter version, right? But this is going to happen. And save yourself that awkward encounter. Like, do yourself a favor. Get it over and done with. Even if you don't love it that much, just get it done. Watch The Godfather Part 2, lads. And then join in the rest of us judging one certain character in this sequel. Classic sequel. Trust me, this is an offer you can't refuse. Let me put it this way, lads. If you've not seen The Dark Knight, I'm not mad. I'm just deeply, deeply disappointed. You're out here watching mediocre superhero movies, lads, if you haven't seen this, where the villain's big plan is stealing a shiny rock. And if you've missed this, the movie that made Why So Serious the most menacing 3 words in cinema. Fix it immediately. Peter. Now the real question is, why haven't you watched this movie, lads? I mean, it's because you think it's just another Batman movie? You know, you think it's some, like, campy guy running around the place in tights shouting kapow? Like the old ones in the 60s? Come on, lads. It can't be like this. This is a high-stakes battle between chaos and order. Christian Bale being Batman, growing like he swallowed a gravel pit, and Heath Ledger delivering probably the greatest performance of all time. And I'm not talking about best actor, best supporting actor, best actress, best supporting actress. I'm talking about throwing every one of those 4 into the same pool and picking who's the greatest out of all of them. And the greatest performance, I think, is Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. He changed things. Literally, this man changed things. He's terrifying, funny, witty, just an charisma falling off the screen. And, you know, if you're avoiding it because it's long, what's your excuse for sitting through a 4-hour director's cut of Justice League? That's a lot of crap compared to this. All right, lads, we got the setup. Gotham City, hanging by a thread. Crime is through the roof. The mob's on the rise. They're really kicking ass. And Batman, the billionaire boy, punching his way through the problem as always. Then he shows up. The Joker. This isn't your goofy make him laugh Joker. This Oscar-winning performance. You really have to see it. He's pure chaos in clown plaint. I mean, it's unbelievable. Flipping every rule of the superhero game, lads. Meanwhile, you got Harvey Dent out there trying to play the hero, and we all know how that turns out. If you don't know, I won't say it, but if you know it, you know. It's like Shakespeare, but with explosions and, well, way cooler outfits. Now here, lads, the opening scene of The Dark Knight is superb. It really gets you right into the movie. It just grips you. And From the opening bank heist, which, let's be real, is a better movie than full movies, to the Joker's absolutely bonkers social experiments. You can only save one boat. Well, you'll see what that means. The film, it grips you tighter than Batman's cape in a windstorm, lads. And every scene, it escalates the stakes. I mean, will Batman stop the Joker? Can he stop the Joker? Will Gotham survive? And most importantly, will Christian Bale's Batman's voice hold up? I mean, will he cough up a lung? It is quite deep. He is amazing in this, but you'd wonder. And then the climax hits, lads. The Joker's plan comes alight. Harvey Two-Face starts flipping coins, losing his mind. I'm not going to try and give anything away. And then Batman makes a big sacrifice. Not his life, but I won't go far. But he makes a big sacrifice, which leads into the trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises. But we will review that as well in the meantime. But, I mean, the guy literally is willing to put it all on the line, Batman. I mean, it's heroic. It really is. It's ballsy. It mightn't even work. But, again, you'll have to decide for yourself. That's right, lads. Batman really, really puts it on the line here. I think, lads, by the end of the movie, I think you will sit there shocked, mesmerized by the performances and the movie itself in a whole. Christopher Nolan has delivered a masterpiece. Heath Ledger delivered an epic, unforgettable performance. And I think you'll probably come out going just, whoa, man, I just watched an absolute... you watched art in the making. I mean, it's unreal, lads. And it's not just a superhero movie. It's a psychological thriller. It's a crime epic. A morality played all rolled into one. And it redefined what comic book movies could be. And frankly, everything else has been really, lads, playing catch up ever since. So, lads, do yourself a favor. Watch The Dark Knight. If you've seen it before, well, watch it again. Do yourself a favor. I mean, because you know what? Unlike Gotham, you actually deserve something this good. Now, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to watch The Godfather Part 1. Not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. Because if you don't watch this movie, you are missing out on, quite simply, the greatest story that has ever been crafted and put to film. Peter. Wow. Now here's the thing. People hesitate with this movie. They think it's just another old mafia movie, right? I mean, they're so wrong. It's about gangsters. What could it teach me about life? I don't care. I've seen it all before. Let me tell you something here. You haven't seen it all before. This is the original. This is the mothership of mafia movies. This is where it all came from, lads, okay? Beautifully crafted. It's not just about gangsters, it's about power, family, betrayal, and the human condition. And you're depriving yourself of brilliance every second you don't hit play, lads. Genuinely. And, it's not just a movie, it's a life lesson in 3 hours, lads. Wrapped in stunning visuals, dialogue that stays with you for years. You've got Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan, and so many other more greats. Robert Duvall, can't forget him. Some of the greatest actors of all time that are starring in this. The Godfather is considered a masterpiece, lads. Not just because of Oscar-winning Marlon Brando here. He won the Oscar for this. Yeah, that's right. And he's the greatest actor of all time. But it's the haunting score by Nino Rota. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'd question any human being that has never heard The Godfather. It would be a shock to the system. It reflects life's grey areas. Good and bad blur into one, right? You've got Vito Corleone, the man, terrible things he does, but he loves, obviously, his kids. You got Michael, the reluctant son. He never wanted to be part of the business, but funnily enough, he gets to the head of the business. I mean, and how does he do it? Well, you'll have to see. Now, as you watch, the tension builds like a symphony, lads, right? There's the wedding scene, the opening scene, joyful, fun, chaotic, but at the same time laced with secrets. You can feel there's a darkness, just teasing its way up onto the surface as you watch the wedding scene, right? There you've got the power play between the Corleones and the families begins here. This is all where it all begins. And the scene in the hospital where Michael stands guard over his dad. Okay, we won't be ruining anything for you here, lads. You know, that's a tense scene, man. That's a really tense scene. And then the restaurant, probably, well, it has to be in the top 3 scenes of all time, because the restaurant scene, and I'll leave it at that, okay, it's a real turning point for one of the characters. And from this scene on, you really buy into who this character is. I'm not going to say anything. I won't spoil anything for you. But, you know, it's not just a plot twist. It's a character metamorphosis, right? The quiet son, that's all I'll say. The quiet son becomes the cold-blooded leader, and you can't look away. And then the baptism scene. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this movie now was made before they really had blockbuster action Hollywood hits. So you got to remember and take that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're watching this movie. I mean, the baptism scene, just wow, man. There's innocence, sin, devotion, there's chaos, life, there's death. There's, you know, Michael renounces Satan in church, lads. His enemies are wiped out with brutal precision. And that moment, that's cinema, lads. It's cinema, pure cinema gold. That's storytelling at its finest. This is why The Godfather is untouchable, lads. Now, by the time the credits roll, I really think, whether you're a man or a woman, I think you'll be in awe. Not just of the story, lads, but how it makes you feel. It's not just entertainment. It's enlightening. I honestly think it is. You know, you'll probably question loyalty, morality, how far you'd go to protect what matters most. I think when you finally understand Michael shuts the door on Kay in the final shot, you realize you've just witnessed perfection. Perfection. So what are you waiting for? Don't just sit around, lads. Watch it and let it change you. And, you know, when you've done, come back and we'll talk about The Godfather Part 2 as well, and Part 3 coming up. The Godfather Part 1 isn't just a movie, lads. It's an offer you can't refuse. Oh yeah, it's the goddamn Shawshank Redemption. Onays, lads. This movie is unbelievable. Now look, if you haven't seen the Shawshank Redemption, I wouldn't say that you failed at life, but you failed at life. Guys, I mean, throw it out. Your Netflix subscription. Throw it out. Waste of money. Okay? Save yourself the $20 for the month. All right? And go off and rent Shawshank Redemption if you have to. Okay? Lads, seriously, you gotta do it. Because this movie is number 1 on iMDB Top 250. Number 1 of all time. It's been sitting up there minimum for the last 15 years at number 1. Nothing has come to beat it yet. It hasn't even gone down to 2 for like 4 seconds and then back up again. It's fixed at number 1. And I'll tell you, lads, The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises is my favorite movies of all time. I always kind of go between the both. But you know something? This movie, Shawshank, is the only movie in the world that I find it hard to disagree if somebody says that it's the best movie of all time. I can't argue. Peter. Wow. Okay, here's the setup. We got Andy Dufresne. Tim Robbins, baby. I've never been a huge fan of his, but He's good in this, man. He's really good. Mild-mannered banker. That's Stephen to give him some credit. He's the most boring, plain old fella you'd ever meet in your life. Like, I mean, if you saw this guy in a bar, you'd be avoiding him like the plague. You wouldn't want to be going anywhere near him. Okay, and then you know he's wrongfully imprisoned for killing his so-called wife and her lover. And let me tell you, man. Let me tell you, lads. The man gets handed a prison sentence so long, it makes the Irishman feel like a TikTok clip. Okay? And, you know, instead of moping around like the rest of us would, Andy just kind of gets to work in this movie. You start to admire the guy. Cool, calculated. I mean, he's unreal. And not just on surviving, he gets to work, but not just on surviving. The guy's, he's thriving in jail. He's making friends, building libraries, outsmarting everyone that comes across his path in the most satisfying way possible. I mean, it's like Ocean's 11, but with less Clooney and more existential dread. Now, lads, the tension in this movie, okay, let me tell you, it'll have you gripping your popcorn so tight, lads, it turns to diamond dust. You got Andy, corrupt prison officials, Andy versus despair. Most importantly, Andy versus the sewage pipe. That's all I'll say. I won't say any more. It'll ruin the movie. And let's be honest, most of us wouldn't even survive what happens to this lad at the end of the movie. Okay? That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. And, you know, Andy, throughout the movie, he does things with determination, commitment, passion, patience. Cool as a serial killer, man, ready to pounce on his next victim, just waiting in the wings. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. And then we get to the goddamn climax. Oh, lads, let me tell you, this climax, probably the greatest climax twist the world has ever seen in a movie. This was the mothership of climax and twists in movies, lads. Now, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not giving away anything. But you know something? When Andy's been working and comes across together in the most jaw-dropping, satisfying twists, it's like watching your favorite team score the winning goal in the World Cup. Except your team is one guy, a rock hammer, and a dream. All right, lads, we got some resolution going on here now, right? By the end of the movie, lads, you'll feel like you've been spiritually cleansed. I mean, it's not just a movie. It's a masterclass, really, in hope, resilience, it's sticking to something, right? And I mean, really, the whole movie does revolve around the theme of hope. And, you know, you will start coming out of this movie. It's a feel-good movie. It's gripping. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat, man. And it does, without sounding corny here, it really does give you, there is hope in the world. You know, I mean, like, guys, people think, you know, people just make up scripts in Hollywood and anywhere around the world. But honestly, like, if you knew Hollywood, a lot of Hollywood writers and directors, producers, they go and visit psychiatrists. They talk about certain directions that people take in their life. How does it affect them? Why does it affect them? You know, like getting to know your character, getting to know a movie, because the closer they get to real life, people can relate to it, right? So that's why you'll see some movie and you go, oh my Lord, that's me, man. You know, that's not an accident. They don't just throw words together. They're using what they've learned from psychologists and putting it in onto the big screen. And, you know, maybe you'll enjoy this movie. If you don't, you'll enjoy... You're missing out on a cultural milestone. And, you know, and people will be saying in bars, remember Red's speech? Pure poetry, man. You don't want to be that person, do you? I mean, this is what we're talking about, lads. So do yourself a favor, lads, and go watch The Shawshank Redemption. It is unbelievable. It is, for me, one of the top 10 movies of all time. Yeah, like I said, hard to argue with anybody that would say, hey, Peter, come on, man, it is the greatest movie of all time. It's hard to disagree with them. It really is. I grew up on this movie. It's like the mothership of of movies that you don't see in the cinema. I mean, this movie actually flopped, believe it or not, at the cinema. It got nominated for Best Picture, got nominated for loads of awards, didn't win any, but the moment it hit video and DVD, bang, the biggest success ever. Very strange. So definitely stay-at-home feel-good movie. You gotta watch it, man. And Morgan Freeman is the narrator in this movie, and if his voice does not take you over, I don't know what will. And, you know, if you don't watch this movie, if Morgan Freeman has to narrate your life, he's gonna sound very disappointed. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Shawshank Redemption.
Peter.
Wow.